Hi, friends. Welcome back to Next Chapter Woman. Diane here, if we haven't already met. Today, I would like to have a chat about walking the line when it comes to respect, boundaries, and belonging in a divided world. That's the key here. I've been thinking a lot about how the, everybody is, it just seems like many people are against this, and then there's other people that are against that, and everybody is against something. And so I just got thinking, how do we think about that? How do we deal with that in our own worlds? And how can we make a difference for ourselves and for others? So let me ask you something. Have you ever been at a family dinner or out for coffee with a friend when the conversation turns to something that might be a little bit uncomfortable, like maybe politics or religion? We're never supposed to talk about those things, but well, that's what we were taught when I was young. But it seems like a lot of the times nowadays, those are things that we do talk about. And so when that conversation turns to that, is it sometimes uncomfortable? And maybe something else that just felt too big or too loaded, and we just didn't want to talk about it. And at that moment, I wondered, do I speak up? Do I smile and nod? Or do I get up and leave? I remember those times in COVID. I mean, that's probably the biggest example that comes to mind for me is, those conversations around the COVID policies and around the politics that happened with that. It tended to really divide families, divide friends. I know it did in some people that I know for sure. And maybe the same thing happened for you. But I feel like it's happening more and more now. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm just asking the questions. So those moments are tough, and they don't just test our patience. They can test our relationships, as we know. So today we're going to talk about how to walk that line, how to show respect and set boundaries and still find belonging in our world that sometimes feels more divided than ever. So there's a challenge. The world feels noisy, doesn't it? Everyone's got an opinion, and social media or even our own dinner tables can feel like battlegrounds. Actually, sometimes they are, for sure. But here's the truth. Division doesn't just live out there. It shows up right here in our friendships and in our families and even our closest circles sometimes. And for women in this stage of life, those relationships matter more than ever. We don't want to lose people we love over arguments. We're searching for peace and for joy and for connection, not for arguments. So the question becomes, how do we stay true to ourselves and still protect our peace while keeping all of our relationships intact or together? How do we do that? So I've got what I like to call 3 anchors for walking that line. Number 1, respect without agreement. Before we get to talking about the how do we do that, let's define what respect actually means. To me, respect is recognizing the inner worth of another person. Even if you don't share their opinions or their choices, you can still value their worth. It's listening without needing to agree. That's a hard one for me. I'm working on it. It's also about valuing someone's humanity, even when you don't value their viewpoint. That can be a test for sure. So in practical terms, respect means I don't have to agree with you to treat you with kindness. Think of a time when someone really listened to you, even though they disagreed with you. Didn't it feel good to be heard? You can give that same gift to others. It's like you can say, tell me more about that. You're not debating with them. You're opening up a space to have more conversation. You don't have to agree. It's just getting the conversation out or letting them have the space to get their viewpoint out. So here's a suggestion. Try the next time that a tricky topic comes up. You could say, I can see this matters to you. Tell me more about what that means for you. Number 2, boundaries without guilt. Now let's talk about boundaries. Because respect without boundaries can leave us feeling trodden upon or walked all over. Boundaries are the limits we set to protect our well-being, our values, and our peace of mind in relationships. They define what we will and what we won't accept, not as punishment, but as our way of preserving self-care. So in other words, boundaries are how I teach people what I need in order to stay safe, peaceful, and connected. Make sense? Here's a contrast. Respect is about how I treat you, and boundaries are about how I protect me. It's okay to say, I'd rather not talk about politics tonight. Let's focus on enjoying dinner together. Or, I'm not comfortable going down this road right. You see, sometimes people just need to know where the boundaries are. If you haven't expressed them in a kind and loving way, had a conversation about it, the next time this pops up, try those words. It sets the boundary. It says, I do want to be with you. I just don't want to talk about that. But the words you choose, these words that I'm suggesting, are non-confrontational. They should help to smooth over and get you to the next thing, the next points that you not necessarily agree on, but that you feel comfortable talking about. So here's a suggestion. Prepare 1 or 2 exit lines. For example, let's press pause on this one. I love to hear about your trip instead. Let's press pause on this one and then offer another suggestion. Doesn't that feel better rather than holding yourself in and wishing you didn't have to be there and talk about that? Blah, 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 blah. See, I don't think boundaries are the same as walls. I look at them more like they're doors with doorknobs. You decide when and how those doors open. Number 3, belonging without conforming. Finally, belonging. True belonging doesn't mean we all agree. It means we all feel safe to show up as ourselves. I think that too often we women, we shrink ourselves just to keep the peace. We bite our tongues, we nod along, and later we stew in frustration. Guilty. That's not belonging. That's pretending. Belonging comes from finding or creating spaces where differences are respected. Spaces where you can show up as your full self without being pressured into conforming. Here's a suggestion. Ask yourself, what are my non-negotiables in friendship? Maybe it's honesty. Maybe it's kindness. Maybe it's the freedom to disagree without fear. That's mine. I like to be able to disagree and at the same time not be afraid that I'm going to offend somebody or that somebody's going to leave because they don't like what I'm saying. The freedom to disagree without fear. Knowing your non-negotiables helps you see which relationships can handle the differences and which might need some distance. Let me share something from my own life. I've learned that I can't control someone else's beliefs or their behavior. Can't control either one. But I can control how I show up. And I choose to show up with respect. I choose to set boundaries when needed. And I choose to find my belonging in spaces and with people where I can be myself. So let's bring it all together. Walking the line in a divided world means respect without agreement, boundaries without guilt, and belonging without conforming. It's not always easy, is it? But when we practice these three anchors, we create more peace in our relationships and inside ourselves. And isn't that what we all are looking for? It is for me. And here's my question for you. Where in your life do you need more respect, stronger boundaries, or deeper belonging? If this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend you trust. Maybe it'll spark your own respectful conversation. That's what I hope. So until next time, remember, you don't have to choose between connection and peace. With respect, boundaries, and belonging, you can have both. Bye for now.